This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
The meeting is called to order. We just approved the minutes. For those who are watching this, I forgot to start the recording on time. This is my last meeting as dealing with the budget. I'm very happy the communication was very good this year. Last year, we did have some difficulty, but I'm happy that we're improving our communication so things can happen. I wanted to bring this up. Thank you, Hato, for these numbers. So everybody can see this, if you can see it. The entire amount of money that we spend as taxpayers, and I know some of it's Chapter 70 money, that revenue that comes in from the state, but that's taxpayer money too, on city schools. If you add in the spending for the education budget as well as the nets, the benefits and everything else of $7 million, is $24,672,000. It's almost half the budget. So the city of Easthampton does care about the schools, and I'm bringing that up because I care too. Education is a priority in our community if you just go by numbers. It's triple anybody else's budget. But these are our future. These are our kids, and I think it's worth every penny. But I wanted to bring it up so that the people out there who are wondering, who wonder what we spend on schools, can see these figures when they look at this recorded. All of these items here are lines of that the city side pays for, benefits, etc. We'll go over those in our normal budget. Now, this is the city council gets the budget from a total perspective. School committee is in charge of the line by line along with the superintendent. I'm saying this for the publics. This figure of $18 million, which is the total of all these expenses. Everybody see this okay?
Can you just let me in?
Make it bigger?
No, let me in at
Let
the
him
call
in.
so that way I can see it here.
Oh,
It's
I'm
easier.
sorry. I was trying to avoid you, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make this larger. This is a new. That better? Can you see it now?
Yeah.
Okay. So I know people look at percentages, what's the percentage increase? But the total increase from this amount here, which was last year's FY23 original budget, to the budget that is proposed by the mayor, is $1,735,708. That's a major increase in dollars. So I think that's great from my point of view. And I'm very happy with the school committee and the superintendent, everybody, for getting that forward. I have two major questions. One of them is I'm very concerned about, because the mayor brought it up in her opening remarks on the city side regarding federal grants, pandemic grants, and how anybody hired under those grants were going to be absorbed into the city's budget over the years. I am concerned, I guess I'm talking to you, Allison, but also to Marion in the future. Have you made plans to absorb these staff members into the budget? And I say that in all frankness, because I don't want to hear, I'll hear about it. I'm not going to be here, but maybe my colleagues will. We have to lay off people. I don't want to hear that because of federal grants. So we made plans for that. That's my biggest question today.
We have begun to shift folks. So you're talking primarily about the
ESSER money,
COVID dollars.
any COVID dollars
ESSER
that's spent,
The
that
ESSER
I guess they're gonna
funds
run out in the 24,
at the end of next year.
so FY
So we've
25
taken a
budget.
strategic plan, we've put together a strategic plan to look at the positions. Not every position that was funded through COVID dollars will be needed forever once we get past, these, when the COVID dollars are to be used. So number one, we're looking at all of the positions to determine if they are truly needed. And we've made a plan this year. Several of the positions moved off of the COVID grant, the ESSER funds, into the district budget. So almost half of them moved into the district budget. And the plan is to continue on with the other half for one more year. And then at the end of that year, we'll absorb the remaining positions and or phase out the positions that are no longer necessary.
So when you say phase them out, that may mean layoffs for those positions?
It may mean layoffs for those
You'll absorb them through
positions.
attrition in other positions.
Those folks will most likely have seniority in the district because they've been on board for a few years. So para-educators, for example, they move up the seniority list, even if they're on a grant. So they would just get another position within the district.
Okay, but we might have to remove some people just to keep the budget in check.
That's
And
correct.
it's grant funded positions. It's important that people
Yes.
understand that
Yes,
they're not normal, I don't want to use that term, positions that are regularly you see in the school department. These are positions that we use during the pandemic, help the kids get over the
Yes.
fact that they're on remote, all of that, very necessary. I'd love for you
To
to
shore up
use them,
learning-
but you're
learning
not anticipating being able to save everybody.
correct.
Okay. All right, I just wanted everybody to hear that. That's important to me. On this subject alone, does anybody have any questions? About the ESSER money? I know that was something I brought up when we met. Okay. Hato, before I move on, you see this figure here? Or maybe it's Jess. What's intergovernmental mean? $1,551,000. I didn't know what that meant.
Yes, that would be.
Do you mind if I?
Oh, Nick, sorry. I keep
That's okay.
forgetting Nick's here.
That's okay. That's basically tuition that we pay to other government entities. So that would be like your vocational tuition,
I got you. Okay.
or tuition to other public school districts. We do have a couple of students who we tuition for various reasons to a couple other public school districts. So that's, most of that is vocational tuition.
Sorry, I have to go back to admit something. Okay, sure.
It's kind of a clarifying question. So some of that is, or most of that is vocational, you said, but also that might be students who left the
Choice?
school and our school choice.
That's not school choice.
No, okay, I
That gets
just wanna make sure
assessed
I
from the
was-
city off the cherry sheet.
Okay,
There's just a couple of students that we tuition to other public districts because we don't have proper programming
okay, I
for
just wanna
them
make sure.
here. There's
Okay.
only one or two, I think,
Special ed and things like that.
special ed related.
All right. Not net spending, purchase of services is mostly busing, right?
Yeah, that's all busing.
All busing.
Could be homeless, foster care, special ed, regular day, vocational. That's all the transportation.
All right. I don't get into the weeds on these budget numbers. I do have a subject about programming, but I wanted to ask if anybody has anything beyond the budget numbers we control. We can only control this total. If remembering that there's my favorite term, circuit breaker money, I love that term, and other things. Does any counselors want to go into any of the details?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. En la reunión de la School Committee, yo vi que hubo un programa que se cortó.
Am I gonna have
Que
to
habían
translate
dicho-
this?
No,
Okay, all right.
just listen. Y en ese programa hablaba del programa de aprendizaje de lenguaje. Y es preocupante que ese programa se corte. Y me parece innecesario que ese programa se corte. Now I'm going to ask you, how you feel when I speak Spanish?
I
Right?
wish I knew
You feel
how
lost.
to speak. Yeah.
So that's the same way that the students with language barrier feels when they go to school. And it is worrying after watching the last two school committee meetings, Dr. Leclerc do a presentation of the EL program based on some concerns about some EL teachers and paraprofessionals in the school system. look based on what the clerk presented that day, they have to make some cuts in that program. It's worse me. The only program being affected is the program who is based for the BIPOC community, not necessarily, but the majority will be BIPOC community. They also know the language. It's concerning because the parents of those kids, it's really hard for them to come and speak out because they don't know the language. And that is really concerning. I know that the Leclerc is going to retire on June 31st, June 30th. But I don't believe it's appropriate to leave, especially laying off some people, or no, because when we talk about position, and we have this discussion before with Emily, positions is one thing, people is something else, right? We look at positions that those positions are not being vacant because no one is in that position. Okay, maybe we don't need that. But when we're talking about people in those positions, now we're making cuts. So, and that's concerning me really, really well, especially there is people who have disadvantage with the English.
So before I allow Allison to respond, that's one of the subjects I was going to bring up. We're talking about English as a second language program.
Correct.
And you've concerned that you've heard, as I've heard, that there may be cuts to that program, including laying off of teachers. Is that true? And why are we doing that in the school system?
So number one, it's not true.
We're
But
not
I
laying
will-
anybody off.
We're not laying anybody off.
Okay, go ahead.
So I'll give you a little bit of background and then I'll fast forward to where we are right now. During the pandemic, when we went to remote learning, fully remote learning, and we received ESSER dollars, one of the things we decided to do is we knew that our ELL students were the most vulnerable or the most at risk when we were fully remote. And that was really the purpose of COVID dollars, was to shore up areas where you had the most need. So at that time, we added 2 paraeducators to our ELL staffing for the purpose of supporting our ELL students during remote learning. So they were funded through COVID dollars. And when we came back fully, remember there was 1 year where we were kind of half in, half out, so kept them on board. Then we had last year, but last year we knew was going to be a really big kind of transition year. Kids were coming back fully in person for the first time for a whole year. There were a lot of learning deficits to shore up. And our access testing, which is the primary testing that we do for ELL students throughout the state, demonstrated that these students were still struggling from the pandemic, from being in remote learning. So we kept those 2 paraeducators on and paid for them for another year through COVID dollars. This year, transitioning into the new school, we kept the 2 paraeducators on, knowing that these students coming from small neighborhood schools into the new building, there'd be a lot of new routines to get used to. Again, still trying to shore up our academic success. Now, what happened this year, to fast forward to this year, we have a high school teacher that's going on a 1-year sabbatical.
This is an ESL teacher.
An ELL teacher, I'm sorry, yeah, she's going on sabbatical. So she's not losing her job. She requested to go on sabbatical of us. And we have we have 2 ELL teachers still in the district at Mountain View, and we had the 2 paraeducators. One of the paraeducators was phased out this year, transitioned in January to a different position. And the second paraeducator, we will be transitioning to a different position at the end over the summer. So they will finish out their year as an ELL paraeducator. They have seniority, they're not losing their job, no one's losing their job. What we've done is we've looked at data, and as Counselor Gomez said, we did a presentation at school committee. I'm happy to share it out, where we shared out data for where we are with our numbers. And our numbers are decreasing at the high school. Next year, we anticipate having 6 ELL students, and we don't feel that necessitates the hiring of a full-time ESL teacher to backfill the teacher that's going on sabbatical, because there are 6 students. And we may have less than that because there are some students in the current 8th grade class that are ELL students that have applied to go to Smith or CTEC. They've been accepted. Whether the students decide to go or not, they have time to figure that out. Last week we met with the ELL team and I went to the meeting, and we have our access scores are back. Our students have done really well. They have made tremendous growth on their scores. And we have some students that will be discontinuing from the ELL program. They get reclassified. And so they no longer receive direct ELL services, but rather they get just monitored by the ESL teacher who checks in with their classroom teachers to make sure that they're navigating successfully. So, so we're down in our numbers. We're down to pre-pandemic numbers for ELL students. And when we had pre-pandemic numbers, we had 2 ESL teachers only in the district. Now we have the 2 teachers at Mountain View, and we will be transitioning a teacher at the high school who is duly certified. She will be a part-time ESL teacher next year. And then we'll adjust the year after. I won't be here. That will be someone else that will look at the numbers again and determine where we need to be with that. But we feel that a part-time teacher at the high school is appropriate for the number of students that we're working with at that level.
So just to review, we have 1 EL teacher going on sabbatical.
Mhm.
You have a part-time teacher going to take care of
Backfilling
what
that.
you think is at most 6 students
Yeah.
next year
Mhm.
in the high school.
Right.
And the 2 teachers that are at Mountain View, they're the same. What are the numbers at Mountain View? I'll get back to you in a second.
I think we have, I don't know what the numbers are today. We had, I think, about 42 in the district.
And 2 teachers, well, that should be sufficient. So you separate those, it's 21 per class.
Where this year they're currently served, the breakdown this year is 1 teacher does K through 5. She has the larger caseload, and then another teacher does 6 through 8, the middle school. But next year, to divide it more evenly, 1 teacher will do K4 and 1 will do 5-8, so that the numbers are more equitable. And they have a caseload of about 17 students, 18. I think 1 has 20 and 1 has around 18.
Okay. President Cronus.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If the liquor said that what I said was not true, right? But her statement, she said that we have a full-time position, there's going to be a part-time position at the high school. So that's a half of the position. She said the 2 paraprofessional educators, they moved from the EL to another program. So that's 2 extra. So that's 2.5. So I guess my statement was true, wasn't. So,
You, if I could
so-
just correct you though, you said you thought that I was laying people off. We're not laying anybody off.
So.
Yeah, I think that's the communication difference, Omar.
Oh, okay.
It's moving people around, but not laying anybody.
Okay. That's fine, but I just want to clarify that from 1 position now it's only 1 part-time. And 2 educators, you know, they're not gonna be there. And her statement said that the students are doing better. And that's why they need less educators and half-time teacher, full-time teacher at the high school. Again, I think that it's not good for our school system. Why they're doing better? Maybe because they have full staff now. That they're doing better. If we're going back to have position at the high school and not having the 2 educators at the middle school or elementary school, we're going to be at the same stage that we were before pandemic.
So,
To be clear, though, we will have more staff next year
As of the EL,
than we did pre-pandemic.
at the EL,
Yes,
we're gonna have more staff next year than this year.
there were 2 full-time
I'm not talking
teachers.
about 2019 or 2017.
Right, that's what I'm
talking
saying.
about this year.
Yeah,
No,
this year compared to next year,
This year
there's a
compared to next year,
difference. Yes.
it's a difference of
Yes.
less people helping
We have
the,
less students in the ELL program in total,
okay,
okay? And then we have several students now that have moved, they're being reclassified because of their success on the access scores. So our numbers in ELL are going down, and our practice in the public schools has been, we look at data, we look at our numbers. We do that for grade levels as well. If the enrollment goes down in a grade and we're able to cut a teacher, or reverse, if the numbers go way up and we need to add a teacher, we adjust staffing as we need it.
okay,
I'd love to keep ELL pairs if you want me to, but that would necessitate giving me more money.
I don't think so, because last year you had for $800,000 and they giving only 200.
all right, so
So,
I know this could be a debate for a while. And, all I'm saying is I wanted to, you have a question, Tom? Or a statement? I just wanted to hear from our school board member, Maren, you're on the call. And I'd like to hear what the school board is feeling about ELL and I'm saying this because our current superintendent is making this program change based on data, whatever reasons. I need to know how you feel about it going forward. We're going to have a new superintendent and we're going to need to set this program up for the year. Can you tell me how the school board feels about all this right now? And then I'll get to you, Tom. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'll certainly speak to this. Thank you very much for the opportunity. So I think there's a couple different pieces here. One is, we worked through this budget back in February, right, is when this budget was first brought to us and we worked through it. So it's been a while since we got into the weeds, like this conversation is getting into the weeds about this particular program. More information has come out. More people have raised questions and concerns. And as a school committee, we are planning on having a discussion that's specific to the ELL program. It's either, I don't remember if it got scheduled for the July or August date. When we have the new interim superintendent, we have the program is going to be brought to, discussed in more detail. And at that time, we will make adjustments as we recommend to this new superintendent, the interim superintendent at that time. So from my opinion, we can make these adjustments in the future when we have the opportunity, as opposed to trying to do any last minute revisions on the budget or changes of the budget that's in front of you at this time.
That's internal school. Yeah, as I said at the beginning, we can't control how the school committee uses their funds. All we can do is bring up something we're concerned about, which is our right and what we should do. So I'm as concerned as Councilor Gomez. Tom, you had your hand up.
I did, but the question doesn't, I'm interested in this topic, but I can take it to that meeting. It's not really relevant to what we're discussing tonight, which is this budget.
Oh, I think it is, but that's a matter of
was,
debate. I think you're right, though. It should be taken up with the school committee.
Let me explain a little bit further. I had some questions about exactly what this program looks like and what the experience of the students who are in it is, but that seems like a discussion questions that would be better asked at the meeting that committee member Goldstein was just alluding to, rather than this particular budget meeting. So I'll hold my questions to that until that time.
Yeah, I just want to echo these points, right? I think so often cuts come to the most vulnerable populations in our community. And in this particular case, you have students who are here for a variety of different reasons, who experience trauma, who have experienced a great deal of struggle to get to this place. And I think all of those kind of psychosocial pieces impact their ability to learn, right? And so, fine, okay, there's 4 less students who are here, but that doesn't mean there's not equal the amount of trauma that students are facing. And I don't want to feel like, oh, that's the teacher's responsibility. However, that's the situation that we're in. And so I find it really difficult to base all of our decisions on numbers when the reality is there's a lot of pain and suffering that students are experiencing. The second piece of that, I think it's important for us to take into consideration that there's a lot of things that are taking place around the border. And I think that there's a lot of fear in those places. I think that you have the situation with the state of Florida, who's saying that this is an unsafe place to be for people of color. And I think that our state, in fact, might see an influx of people coming here because they are needing those. And I think that we have to be in a position of being prepared for those things. And this certainly is an opportunity for a conversation with the school committee. And I understand that, and I recognize that maybe this isn't where this is, but I think that there is merit to, maybe we're doing something right by having this number of people serving these students, and a smaller number is really in many ways only going to add challenge, which is going to take away from their learning. And as someone who works in higher education, you know, the more that we can prepare students for in their high school, the more successful they're going to be in college. And I think that unfortunately, we create a lot of situations in colleges because of underfunding. We create pipelines that lead to prison, that lead to other situations, right? And so I want to make sure that we provide our students the best opportunity so that they can also live out their dreams and you know, whatnot. So I just want to acknowledge that, and I look forward to the conversation with the school committee. But I think maybe we're doing something right and it shouldn't be changed. And no data is going to inform us of that.
Mayor.
I just add to the data conversation, there is data that's showing that EL programs provide something more than just language instruction. Clearly they do, because one, the access results that Dr. Leclerc presented were stellar. I mean, it was impressive. That said, in the culture of hate, discrimination, bias, that is around us that we can't control, one of the best interventions, right, for kids who are feeling socially, disregarded or can't find their place is the routine and instruction of education, right? I mean, I think that line blurs a little bit, and schools, end up with a little more than that. And to that end, Dr. Leclerc has brought in partners. But for this case, and I've gotten letters, and Dr. Leclerc responded right away. This is what we're doing. This is how we're doing it. These are the numbers. I would just want, with the conversation with the school committee, that there's a conversation around data from our behavioral health and mental health providers that in this program take a real hard look at EL, but also EL with a social, emotional component. That maybe it's not called EL, right? Maybe it's an internal. And I mean, the kids who I have met, and I keep forgetting, Nick has not gotten me my answer. When I met with the EL students, it was amazing how many languages were in the room, and the tone of skin, and it was pretty equal. Kids had ties to Mexico were scared out of their wits as much as the Russian and Ukrainian child and so I just, I'm thinking, is there a way to structure them both? But the data around how they feel and their mental health status, it's equally important. I mean, when I read these emails, it's like, this instruction is good, we do it right, and it's providing a very vulnerable population some structure and routine in a micro community within the schools. I mean, I definitely hear it, and would just ask that the school committee, yes, considers that. And then just quickly kind of budget, because if it relates to food, the second, third, and fourth graders in the EL program would like to know why they don't get ice cream sandwiches for lunch. I've mentioned this to business manager.
That's a fair question.
Exactly, and they can't wait until they're fifth grade, and you said you would talk to the power of the B of Rich Charles.
I did actually. Do you want me to say this is tomorrow's meeting or?
Yeah, we'll take I was just taking, I was grandstanding a little. I want my youngest constituents to know, I didn't forget. And yeah,
Oh my
no,
goodness.
but I do. And
You brought up something that I had a question about.
ice cream.
No, the fact that there's more than, Spanish is probably the most dominant language when we're talking about ELL, but there's Russian and Ukrainian. How does one teacher do all
Middle
that?
Eastern.
How do you have one
Well, it's-
teacher
And
teach in different languages? I'm just curious. I am,
I think it's
I mean-
really important to, I just want to say two things. People are talking about the meeting in the summer, but also tomorrow night on the agenda, we'll discuss the access scores, kind of how our students did, because when we talked anecdotally about access scores about a month ago at a school committee meeting, we said once we had the scores, we would bring them to the committee. So that's tomorrow night, if people want to tune in to see the actual information about how our students did. The other thing I would say is, beyond our EL staff, who are all amazing, and so please don't get me wrong, and one of them's taking a sabbatical next year to become more expert in her field. But beyond that, the state of Massachusetts, we're required to have our classroom teachers be proficient in something called sheltered English immersion. So
what
our
is shelter?
sheltered English immersion, which goes hand in hand with the work that an ELL teacher does. So every teacher now that practices in our classrooms has to have a higher ed course in sheltered English immersion so that they can support an English language learner student in the classroom, in the regular ed classroom. So that's a requirement. And under the state guidelines, an EL student is supposed to receive X amount of time per day with a licensed ELL and teacher, but also they're supposed to be in a sheltered English immersion classroom and receive support from that teacher. So it goes hand in hand. They're both requirements. So we have teachers that work across grade levels to support students in the classroom and when they go to their EL period, when they have their EL class during the day. So it's kind of goes hand in hand. So I think there's a full picture, and I'm happy to send you the PowerPoint I did a couple weeks ago, so if you want to look at it
Back
in
to
more
my
detail.
question about other languages than Spanish. How does that work?
Students are not taught in their native language. They're taught in English.
I understand that.
Yeah. So that's how the support comes into play, working with them in a manner so that they can access the language at whatever level they're at.
Mayor, you want to?
I would just say, around the issue of Spanish, which I think is emblematic of Western Mass, in Holyoke, that the Spanish in the round table it was Mexican, it was Colombian, Peruvian. So I mean, it's languages that surely are related, and with Dominican and Puerto Rican. So when we're talking about Spanish, that's a huge generalization. And it was clear from each one of the students that even though they spoke different languages at different levels, there was a connection because of that. I mean, it's kind of, I will say to myself, I would love my child to have been in a school where she could learn, you know, 2 languages. And when I thought about the Cry for World Language program, I looked at these kids and I go, well, here it is. I mean, it was amazing. But I mean, I think that the diversity within Spanish speaking is, I mean, it was an eye opener for me. I had made this assumption and it was quite the opposite with the kids that want ice cream sandwiches.
Yeah.
We did share that comment.
Okay, anything else? The chair would like to know if there's any other president comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I believe in data. I do. I believe in goals and perspective and dreaming, but I have my 2 feet on the ground. Today, this concept doesn't feel comfortable going for this school budget. The main reason is if we're doing good, it looks like we're doing good in the EL program. Reducing the staff in that particular department will affect the people who need or a portion of them need the most in our community. Last year, we have a really good number of teachers and parents fighting to increase the budget and for us to send the budget back because transportation. And I think the transportation is less or more important than the EL program. I'm just saying that. Because the student needs transportation to go to the school too. Thank God for those one who believe in God, who thanks to higher education. We have a really good finance guy at the school department now. And he found a way to cover most of the costs for the transportation. I would encourage the counselors of the school to find an agreement again to don't cut those positions. We're doing good. And this is a strong message that we're doing good. I don't want to go back. Again, based on that, this contract doesn't feel comfortable with the budget.
What would solve the problem for you?
An agreement that those positions are not going to be cut.
So that agreement, in my opinion, avoids the current superintendent and goes right to the school committee. Because that's next year.
But last time we did an agreement with the superintendent that was between the school committee and the city councilors and the mayor.
No, I mean.
Okay, well,
And this one, no disrespect to Dr. Leclerc, but last agreement was between the councilors and the school committee and the mayor.
then I would suggest, Maren, that you find a way to have a meeting to discuss this topic before we vote on it, June 7th. Want to say anything, Maren? I thought you had your hand up. I'm sorry.
Okay, we will make time for this meeting.
Okay,
There, I mean, our schedule between now and June 7th is beyond tight, and I think it is unfortunate that while I completely agree, I'm going to say this, I completely agree with the desire to have deeper analysis and to like dig into programs that we are funding within our budget. I think it's unfortunate that we're not able to proceed with the budget as we worked out and presented and has been approved multiple steps along the way. We can certainly dig into this program, but I think it's unfortunate to try to put that before June 7th with everything else that our committees are working on right now. But I will see what I can do.
Point of order.
yes,
I think that those EL kids in our community are worth putting in one more meeting. It's the least we can do. We do not have the best track record with this subpopulation, nothing to do with current administration but historically going back into the 2000s. We are a community that I will never forget having to settle 3 civil lawsuits because of cuts in programs and what happened at the high school. And we have a responsibility as electeds to discuss that and to own it. If not now, when? If not now, when?
Counselor Denham.
Yeah, I share the same sentiments. So that's something that I would like to see, and I totally get and I respect the state's kind of desire to have trained folks who are in the classroom. I think you called them sheltered
English English.
Yes.
SEI, that's just easy.
Yeah, and they also have a full class. And they're trying to support someone who's an English learner, right? I think that student needs additional support, that even though that person's trained, it doesn't detract from the fact that there's so much more going on in the classroom. And so I support that. I don't feel comfortable. I'm committed to this. And I have 11, I've got like 17 meetings this month, right? Just for this and school and other things. And so I am committed to meeting with the school committee to find time to be able to have this conversation. For that reason, I think that these are, this is a vulnerable population in our community, and we have to do our best to make sure that they get the support that they need.
I'll say something procedurally. We don't have to pass the school budget on June 7th. We have to pass it by July 1. We have another meeting on June 21st. It's been scheduled. If we decide to, President Gomez says we're not ready, we can continue that public hearing until June 21st. So we have time, because I know the school committee has a great deal to do with getting their interim superintendent in. And we'll have 2 new members too, so there'll be more school committee members to discuss this topic. So there's time. I agree that the topic should be discussed. I'm not sure I'm there with saying no to the budget on July 1. I don't think I could do that, because that'd lay off a bunch of teachers. And I'm not sure that's the way. But it is the only thing the council has for leverage, is passing a general budget. We can't say, okay, we're going to cut this until you spend that. So that's the reason I think that President Gomez and Councilor Denham are bringing it up. And I think there is room for discussion, because I know that Maren said you're going to discuss it anyway. Maren, you have something to say there?
Yeah, I just want to make sure that no one's misunderstanding my words here. We were entirely already, as you just mentioned, engaged to have this conversation in more depth. So in no way am I saying these kids aren't worth it. In no way am I saying that there's a timing issue here that we can't overcome. But in no way am I saying that we don't support this program and support our students. That's absolutely what we were already on the plan to do. And if we need to do that before we have a budget approved, like you're just saying there too, it's concerning that we would take that risk, but we will have that conversation and we will dig further into this program. I just want to make sure that we do that with the right details and the right information. And that's not all what's right in front of us right now. And that's why we were having a meeting as a part of the upcoming school committee meeting. So just to dive into it now, again, I don't believe we're going to have all of those details there, but we'll do the best we can.
I'm not suggesting we dive into it now. It's being brought up tonight at the budget discussion, so we know what we have to do. We have some homework to do. We have a meeting to do. I think President Gomez, you can organize that meeting with whatever counselors want to go to that meeting, whenever it is, a separate meeting. And I know there's a lot of meetings. We have a ton of meetings. School committee has a ton of meetings. But as I said, we can continue the public hearing for the school department on June 7th and get it done on June 21st. So is there anything else beyond this topic that we want to, Allison?
I'm just trying to be clear. So are we scheduling a joint meeting between the school committee finance subcommittee and the city council finance subcommittee?
Not necessarily.
No,
Okay.
it's just a meeting like you guys
School
had.
committee,
Yeah, yeah.
finance subcommittee. Okay.
Something that would have a forum that way we can
Okay.
talk. and
I
figure it
just
out.
wanted to make sure.
I don't want to schedule a finance committee meeting as much as having President Gomez and maybe Councilor Denham or Tom, anybody who wants to be at it. at a
I
meeting
didn't have it
to,
straight.
to go back, a back and forth meeting.
Yeah, what do you want to do?
The agreement that was happened last year wasn't a finance committee meeting, for instance. It's not
Right.
procedurally unnecessary. But we need to hear that there's a plan in place, I imagine. So, but Maren,
I'm just going to say that depending on who wants to attend, if several of your members want to attend, we are going to have a quorum of your committee. And so it will become a joint meeting. So we'll work out those details out the line here, and we'll make sure that we have to
currently it's
officially present it as needed.
Counselor Denham and President Gomez, Counselor Peak and myself will not be at the meeting, so we won't have a quorum on the finance committee.
Okay.
Okay, we
Thank
have
you.
anything else on the,
Thank you.
anything else on the budget at all? I'm gonna reiterate from a positive point of view, besides this topic, that I was very happy with the communication that happened this year. And I'd like us to continue that, because as I said,
Mhm.
we are one city. It's not the city versus the schools. I hate that. It's not you. It's been that way since day one when I became a counselor. We can't have that. We all know how important education is. The city supports education. We built multi-million-dollar schools, brand new.
And I have to add that that's what we're looking for, to support education.
Right.
That's our goal.
Exactly. And we spend $24 million on the schools out of a $52 million budget. So, hey, I think this is good. I think we have to have these debates, and the mayor's eloquence and President Gomez's topics got to be dealt with. Okay, so can we go on? Anybody else on education? All right, Emily's happy that we're going to go on.
Before Emily first.
Don't forget about the ice cream sandwiches.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. You know, I have to say, if there's no ice cream sandwich agreement, no budget.
Well, so hinging on that, I guess I'll be calling.
That would be right.
Chartwell's tomorrow, hinging on that. Thank you.
So the next thing, I'm gonna skip to Emily, because it's you're here for unclassified, right?
Yes, I
Okay.
am.
So I'm gonna jump to that. Debt and interest is fun, but kind of accounting, and that's page 83. Oh, it's not, but Hadel is the most gifted accountant in the state. All right, so we have a lot of employee things that we always deal with, and the biggest one is health insurance.
Yes.
And let me get to the numbers. This is chapter 32B for everybody watching, anybody interested, that's health insurance.
Yes, but there's also dental insurance and life insurance as well.
Oh, life insurance too.
Yes.
Okay. So it's not going up a tremendous amount. It's going up 280,000. So that's not too
Yeah, I
bad.
want to say it's about 10% it's going up.
But that's not terrible.
It's not. We did have an increase in our health insurance premiums this year of about 6%, but we haven't had an increase in several years. We actually had a decrease of, I think, about 2 or 3% about a year ago during the height of COVID. So this was the first time we're increasing, and the primary reason is because our trust is very healthy. The Hampshire County Corporate Insurance Trust is healthy, but as we've come out of COVID, people are utilizing more of their health insurance, and that's costing the trust more money. So to keep it healthy, we do need to finally have a little bit of an increase. And we've been fortunate because we've only had to do 6%, as opposed to most places who are having an 11, 12% plus increase.
Well, I consider 10% pretty good.
Yeah.
And our health insurance for everybody, we give a very good health insurance plan to
Absolutely.
our employees. I'd like to think that's one of the reasons we can maintain a lot of employees staying here. Of course, we're trying to do better with salaries, but health insurance is a biggie. Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Up here, contributory retirement. Why is this only 95,000? I thought there's a lot of, am I misunderstanding
So
that?
the school related, I don't know what happened with that in the edits and stuff, but that is workers' comp. That school related is workers.
It's not
comp.
school related
That's not-
retirement.
That's not contributory. Yeah, that's not retirement. I was just looking at my thing, so I don't know.
That's a bad title.
is just the very top.
It's
line.
just the top.
And now some of that is schools, right? School personnel?
Yes, anyone who is not MTRS, I assume, correct?
Okay, but I'm not counting that towards the school benefits. I'm just, this is what was confusing me. So if this needs a different title, maybe?
Yeah, and it's in my,
Wait, Halos wants to say something?
So school related, city related, and 111F. That is all together. It's just that one line needs to be deleted, so it groups together, and that's one.
Oh, in other words, this little space here should be gone, but I'd like to say school-related workers comp.
yes, that's school related workers comp.
It'd be nice if that's what the title was.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes. The gap shouldn't be there, but it is school related workers.
well, I jumped to it. Does this mean retirement?
No, I know. I was
Okay,
looking
so,
at that too.
okay, that's important. Can we go down here? Is this the reserve fund that we normally have?
Yes.
Why are we not doing a reserve fund next year?
That's what we do. Well, I'm sorry.
Hale, what are we doing here?
That should have been added.
Ah, a boo-boo.
It's added on mine.
Yeah, I have mine as well.
Yeah.
This is the budget,
That's-
this budget book is the one I originally got from the mayor's office way back.
So I'm looking at the one that's on the city website.
Yeah, I'm
And
looking
it's
at the
different?
same. Yes.
This is,
The
Oh,
one
great.
we have on the city website. has
So I'm
two.
using the wrong one?
that's what
I mean, that's the
that's,
one I have too. is-
Mr. Chairman, it was missed first time, but when I did the revenue calculation, that's when it was included. I'm
Good.
not sure if this budget book has been updated. to
Okay,
reflect-
well, probably not because it's the original one. I just keep using it. So could you send me the updated one for the next meeting I
I
have?
do not do.
Who's got the updated one? Well,
I don't have.
It's on the city
That's what I'm
website.
gonna say, and that's what I'm
can
gonna
I
say.
download it?
Yes.
Okay,
I'm gonna say the budget that you have is the budget that I got the email that day when the mayor presented.
okay.
That's the budget that we have. And I didn't open the city budget, because that's what we got.
So do you have the
So we don't
same-
have that new version.
So we need to get the one from the city website. Now that I know this, I'll download it. So these numbers don't mean anything. There's 200,000 here and you guys have 200,000 here?
Mhm.
Okay.
For me, it's just easier to.
Open the city.
Which
Look at
means
it, 'cause
that
it just
number
opens
is
the PDF on
actually
the
10,894,000. It's not 10,694,000.
That's correct. It's 10,890,000. Yeah. So
Yeah.
we're looking at the same thing.
Yes.
All right,
It
well,
means it's up, almost $1 million. I think.
where is it on the website here? Somebody help me out.
If you just go search budget,
Mayor,
fair, oh, well, I
or
just searched.
government, mayor, city budgets. Over two
Oh,
columns.
Fair city budgets.
And
And
then
then the top, yeah, top one.
Sorry, guys, I didn't know this. I apologize.
I actually didn't know it either. I was just being lazy.
It's about procedures,
I
about
just searched.
procedure, because the budget that we got is the budget that you had before. And that was the budget that we as a council had. It's something that we have to say publicly that budget is missing some numbers, or? I don't know if.
What I'll say at the next meeting is that we've concluded our discussions and that the budget that's on the website is the accurate budget.
Okay.
Because you sent it to the counselors. It didn't go anywhere from there. What page are you on?
I'm on page
106.
106.
If actually you go to the table of contents and you just click on
Is that here? Look at,
unclassified
look at what I'm
expenses.
at, right here.
So go to the table of contents, scroll up. Click on-
Right here,
Yeah, now click on unclassified, oops, you went too far.
right here,
Yeah, click on that.
and it goes to it.
Go right to it, now scroll down. And stop, because you're probably gonna, there you
Oh,
go.
I wanna go to the numbers again.
Yeah.
Now, how do I?
Make it larger. There you go.
Somebody want to get in here? Oh. All right, well, now we're,
Next
No.
tab over.
sorry. This one.
Yes.
Okay, now the right numbers are up. All right, does anybody have any other questions? My questions were answered, and I'm glad we caught that, because from now on, I will use this budget. Anything for Emily? Emily, do you want to say anything about this, that you have any concerns about things going up?
No, I mean, the health insurance was the only major change this year. Otherwise, everything has been pretty standard.
Okay. What does OPEB stand for?
OPEB,
Yes,
Other question.
what is that? Other
Other
post-employment
post-employment
benefits.
okay.
So.
You know what? I probably asked this 27
You
times
asked
every
that
year.
Every year. I'm like. I think
Other
I recall
post-employment
deja vu.
benefits. Okay, I'll try to remember that. All right, well, see, now it's 10,894, so we're good. Okay, moving on to,
Before you move,
oh, good, sorry, Omar, yes?
isn't the reason why workers' comp increased $13,000? That was budgeted, the 2023 49,000 and now it's 62,000.
We're paid, what line?
111F. Workers'
I was gonna
comp.
say that is because we changed the structure of how we do the 111F now. So, when we get, there's like the premium we pay each year for the coverage, and then there's the medical expenses that come, and we used to get the bills, and the police and the fire department would pay the bills. Now what we're doing is maxes out at $10,000 that the city would owe every year. Now we're just giving that $10,000 to the insurance company right away so that they can manage the bills. Does that make sense? Like we aren't self-paying those up until the $10,000 anymore. We're just giving that directly to the insurance company, and they'll just manage it the whole entire fiscal year. It takes a lot of like work off of our two admin over at police and fire.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Anything else, Omar, on this?
No.
Tom or Tom? Okay. So I'm gonna go back up.
Actually, you could just scroll up.
Oh, I'm going back up to the,
No, I know, it was just the debt interest was the next one up, so you just have to scroll a couple pages, but.
oh, well, I like doing this stuff.
Oh, okay, well, I'm glad. That's right, up, no, up, it's right above that, there you go.
Why don't you move it? All right. Well, this is now coming online, so I like to download it so it's in the computer. So, the question I had on this,
Thank you.
thank you, Emily,
Appreciate it.
was that when we see the debt and interest for the high school and Maple School, which are debt exclusion, we're looking at what we're paying this year on those budgets. Did we not have to bond more money to pay off this pre-K to 8 school this year? I mean, finish that bonding.
We will, we haven't yet.
We haven't yet, but is this budget, does this budget consider that?
It's in short term right now, so it's only in interest. Once it goes long term, it will show up on the debt schedule.
Explain to the public that what's short term versus long term.
It kind of delays when you're putting it on the budget.
Hmm.
We weren't sure this year how much money we would need to finish the school. So we borrowed what was in the, basically what we needed at that time. And in this coming fiscal year, we will figure out what the total amount is left over that we'll need to borrow. So it will be on the following year's budget if we borrow it long term. The short term can be anywhere from like 6 months to a year.
So if I could do it a simpler way,
It's just interest.
you borrowed short term and we're only paying interest on it.
Correct.
You borrowed short term, and then when you switch to long term, those budget figures will be for FY 25.
Yes.
So FY 24, these budget figures are accurate to what you're going to need to pay next year for the short-term bonding, which is necessary to finish the school. We've already bonded 40-some million, but we're gonna bond more, whatever it is. Okay. Cool. Adel, do you have anything you want to add to this? No? It's interesting. How much more do we need to pay on the high school? I'm just curious. Is that a figure? Is that hard to find? I know,
On the high school?
yeah, I'm just curious. But if that's hard to find, it's not a big deal. I thought it was like, how much?
I think it's 33, but.
33, 20 million?
We pay it off. Kind of like the school, we did, an aggressive flat payment for,
I'm sorry, I missed it. When is it paid off? What year?
we're gonna confirm. I
I
think
thought
it's
you were-
2033, but
So this is showing
I don't know if we refund.
a higher payment in 33 for exclusion, and then it goes down rapidly. So this might be when we pay it off, right here. In this graph. Well, whatever. Long-term debt,
Is paid off in 2032.
okay. So the taxpayers are seeing, though, this for simplicity, a decrease every year in the amount of taxes they're paying for exclusion or not? Or do we wait until it's all done? Tough question.
Yeah, I mean, it's not.
Not that simple, huh?
Yeah, no.
That'd be,
Not at all.
That also suggests that we won't have to bond for anything else ever again.
no, but this is debt exclusion. It's, if you're bonding and it's not debt exclusion is voted on.
Sure, that
So when
suggests,
it's done-
sorry, let me rephrase then. That suggests that we're never gonna have to go out for a debt exclusion again.
Okay, but I'm just saying,
But right now,
Senior center implodes next year.
so
like-
right now the sun is shining down, but who knows what the weather is going to be next week?
all I'm saying is taxpayer asked me, do we get taxes back when the school's paid off? And I say, as long as we don't have any problems, is what you're telling me I should say.
No, but
What should I say to that taxpayer?
I would say to that taxpayer that the prices of goods and services, as well as capital maintenance of our assets, require cities to do debt exclusions to keep our services top notch and our city safe.
But
And
that,
that we should be going for debt exclusion on a regular basis, kicking off our biggest capital projects like wastewater. I think that would be totally.
but that would be the vote of the public.
It would actually, yes, but debt exclusions, it sounds like something you don't want. It's not like maxing out a credit card. It's actually an investment, and we do it when we can.
I understand. Okay.
I would hope that, with absolutely no guarantee, that the debt exclusion we did for the school will be the largest one that the city has for a very long time.
Well, I hope so. Jesus.
You know what? I don't know. I mean, yeah.
But-
It's snowing in Florida, so I'm not gonna say, it's,
All right, well,
yeah.
when we sell debt exclusions to the public, we tell them, when it's done, you don't pay any taxes.
Well, they won't be paying on that particular project
But we
anymore.
might have another project.
Right.
We never know if we're gonna have another project. But you get to vote on
In
them.
2032, they won't be paying on this particular project anymore.
I was reading an article today for the Tennessee School Board. No, the Tennessee Council. They just raise taxes when they have to. So a new council came in and they're cutting them all back because they didn't like that. I am happy that if we have a major project, people get to vote on it in the state. I'm very happy with that. Yeah,
To this conversation. Is it possible that by 2032, that our base tax rate would have risen so much that we actually are paying the same amount of taxes with the that exclusion. So like when it comes off, yes, there's a dollar relief, but actually the value of money.
Perhaps, I guess it would be. I mean, that's a way to look at it, Mr. Economist.
If we capture right amount of growth.
Yeah.
And if we keep going the way we are going with the progress in the businesses, residents, Fair Street project, possibly schools, all those projects, and we capture all those new growths, that will increase the tax rate.
Yeah.
Because that will need more in-house staff to accommodate with the needs of the community.
The idea is that things like the school department as well as council on aging would become more diverse and inclusionary, and the services for a more inclusionary and diverse set of services comes with a different set of needed, necessary costs. So it's an interesting, but I would hope city value-based proposition going forward.
Anything else on debt and interest? I lost the page.
I don't think I have any questions.
Anything? Councilor
It's not
Gomez?
like we can't, we can not pay
Not
it.
to pay.
Yes, that would be a bad vote. Let's not pay our debts. Apparently Congress can do it.
Congress is considering.
I
We're
don't
not
think we want to
Congress.
compare ourselves to Congress.
That's really, most of the stuff we do that's good is not be like Congress, so.
Yeah. That's our motto. Don't be like Congress.
Well, thank you for an interesting, our meeting on Wednesday is at 5:15.
15.
I will use the right budget book, I promise. And, what was I gonna say? A lot of people are coming to that meeting, I guess. There's a lot of department heads involved in government and general government.
Apparently there's people who work in government.
Interesting.
And we will be discussing revenue, which would be you, right? Taylor?
Yes.
Okay.
Because Hadel's our revenue.
She knows where all the money comes from. We have to have a balanced budget, so. Okay, thank you.
Move we adjourn?
Second.
Motion made to adjourn. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.